Ichiuji. We're here at Melissa Ichiuji Studio Gallery for our premiere experiment with what will become a podcast called Creative Outlaws. So we are in Front Royal, Virginia, which has a long history of being a little bit rough and rowdy. And we are going to explore that concept as it relates to creativity. So I will have a series of guests on this podcast, which will also be a video program. Artists from our community who are reinventing the way that lives of artists are lived, how art is created. We'll have visual artists, writers, entrepreneurs, and we look forward to sharing the incredible talent that resides here in the Shenandoah Valley in Virginia. So with that, we are going to bring to you our first episode of Creative Outlaws. And today we're going to speak with Keith Patterson, who is a fine artist. He primarily is a painter, and you're going to learn all about him, his life, and his creative process. And for our next episode, we're going to actually have really good sound. Hi, Keith.
Hi.
Hi, you want to just come on in?
Certainly.
Okay, hey, have a seat. All right, we're going to see how this goes.
Awesome.
Actually, why don't you sit here?
All right.
I think the light is better. Okay, so Keith's shoes were not in the picture earlier, but he said they have a story.
You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
So last fall, we went to Ireland and London, part of the trip, and I needed a pair of shoes for the trip, something waterproof, just because of the English Isles, even on a sunny day it rains, right? So had to be waterproof, had to be comfortable in travel shoes. You have to be able to take them on and off easily at the airport, this and that. So my wife got me a pair of Skechers in my size online, and they were perfect, except they were so shiny that I was actually, embarrassed. Me, who does not embarrass easily, I could not wear them in public. So
Did they just scream American
I mean,
tourist?
it was just hilarious. So I'm an artist. I had some.
Did you paint them?
First I put on matte finish, and it actually worked. But it stunk so bad. It was the super high density. Geez, they stunk so bad that I had to leave them outside overnight, and the mist turned them into. They were white. They looked like ghost shoes, and I couldn't get it off. And so they stunk like high octane and looked like white clouds. So before my wife saw them, I went back to the store, the hardware store, and bought a can of satin black instead of high gloss. Painted them with the satin black, and that's what you see today. But they stunk so bad that they did not make the trip to Ireland.
They seem okay now.
They do, and it's like a rainy day, and they're perfect.
Here's my keys. I will move these. Well, I'm so glad you're here with us today. We're going to talk a little bit about your artwork, which we can see here on the walls. This is what is now a triptych because one of them sold of the series, but they all theoretically belong together. These are the famous bluebells of this area, Shenandoah Valley.
Yes, yeah, Virginia bluebells.
Yeah.
And I paint them every spring, they're just like, for about 3 weeks, they are just resplendent,
Resplendent.
I haven't used that word in a while. But
Rip that out.
they just it's like a carpet in the forest,
Yeah.
and they just take over.
Well, you've captured them beautifully. People love these paintings. They've only been up a couple weeks. They've gotten a lot of attention, and I know they won't be here for long. So, and we also have another piece behind me, which I'm going to wrap up as soon as we're done here, because we have a enthusiastic collector who's acquired this piece as well. So you are prolific, to say the least. So, with the theme of creative outlaws, this is a new podcast that I am experimenting with. I am interested in the ways that artists sort of reinvent the ways that art can be created, the way artists can operate in the world. Do you have any thoughts about what you would consider a creative outlaw?
Well, I think that's a part, I speak for myself. That's part of my artistic persona. There's several aspects that have to come together, and you have to be out of balance and in balance at the same time. The outlaw, to me, the outlaw is what makes me refuse to be satisfied with what I've already done. I gotta step outside of those bounds at the very least. Now as far as societal norms, I know my art career has been my entire life. Everybody that knows me knows I'm an artist, always have been. But to actually put it into a form that can be consumed by an audience willingly, that is a whole nother track from being a true artist. I have known some of the most creative people I've ever met could never put it into that form I'm talking about, something that is suitable to be hung in a gallery. They never get that far.
How do you mean? You mean it wouldn't conform to certain traditional standards of what art is, or they aren't interested in the market, the commercial market?
I think of a friend of mine from high school and early college, and then he really lost it, and but he was maybe the most creative and beautiful artist. Now, see, I've always, since I was a child, my parents, recognizing that I had no other skills, they promoted my art, and if I uncorked a beautiful painting, I had paints. If I uncorked a beautiful painting, chances are it was on a piece of nice painting paper or canvas, not on a piece of yellow notepaper with blue lines on it, is what I'm saying is people do fantastic things, but they're not in a medium that can last or be sold.
Although, there is a big market for conceptual art. It's a bit niche and it's not for everybody, and it's certainly not mainstream, but there's all sorts of things that have been sold.
Oh, you can tape a banana to the wall. But
Yes.
that's been done.
There you go. So, have you ever created something that was censored or that was on the edge, that maybe even scared you to show or to reveal, or was very vulnerable?
I don't, that's a really good question. My art has taken many forms. I have been a political cartoonist. Those have gone to the edge where my publisher would not publish them because they were too over that line. Now I wrote a novel. I decided I was a fan of Stephen King, and this is my collection of short stories. Now none of these really crossed the line. I think my mother was still alive when we published this,
So this is called 90% Half True, and these are a collection of short stories based on your life?
Yes, and none of these are totally fiction, even though I call them a collection of fiction, and none of them are totally fiction. All of them are based in reality. Fiction is much more difficult. But I did write a fiction novel, and it was a horror story, and it was horrible. And yeah, that I realized that I did not want to bring that into the world, so I just shelved it. Even though several people read it and said, yeah, you know. But I realized, and then, you know, who knows? That may have made me successful, but I realized that's not what I want to bring into the world.
So you're very conscientious of the kind of energy you want to project and share and spread.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, your work resonates with so many. I would say primarily because people come here to the Shenandoah Valley to soak up the natural assets of nature, and you are becoming very well known for portraying that in your artwork. And so when people come here from other places, you know, we're 65 miles outside of Washington, D.C. We now have a lot of people coming out from the big city. And they see your work, and it's like they want to bring a little bit of the Shenandoah Valley home with them, I would say. Or they have a second home here, and they want to put work that reflects the area. How do you balance your desire for self-expression with pleasing the market and your audience? Is there a separation, or are they completely cohesive?
No, I mean that's the crux of the biscuit right there. That's what you wrestle with every day. I mean, that's what I wrestle with every time I take out my trusty chicken foot brush that I use to splatter paint. You know, I'm like, am I being too obvious? Because my splatter all looks like it's coming from the same chicken foot. You know, I mean,
but nobody knows.
Right, nobody knows. You know, but the chicken foot has a pattern.
It's like you're casting a spell.
Casting aspersions. No, you know, sure. And I want it to look like that. I want it to look random. But there's, you know, because nature is random, and that's why I drip and splatter.
Yes, and that itself is like kind of a sort of exorcism. I mean, what I love, and I think what resonates with people, is that your work is resolved, but it's not overworked. It remains fresh, and there's an innocence about it. You know, and you really walk that line, I think, in a beautiful way.
Well, thank you. And again, that is another, you know, really a point where divergent ideas come together. I mean, not overworking it, but making it fully realized. You know, that's a constant. You know, sometimes I have to go back and smudge things up a bit to make them not look too finished. You know.
Is it easy for you to let go of work? To just, you know, when it's done, and to let it be, to let it go out into the world? You're not hung up on holding on to stuff. You're good at letting go.
Oh yes, yeah. I don't keep. My wife has 3 paintings that I'm not allowed to sell. And that's really all we hold on to, you know, everything. 4 paintings.
Oh, 4, okay.
One of them I did when I was 8 years old.
Yeah.
And that's, I had it up here when I was doing a talk once before.
Oh, yes, I remember. Yeah. I remember. I want to ask you something a little bit personal. You've had some health challenges in your life, and I'm wondering, you know, you're so prolific. Has there been a shift in your sense of urgency to create, either inspired by your own health or socioeconomic political climate, or your, you know, your age or experiences, or moving into new seasons? Has your sense of urgency and your output changed at all?
Another good question. You're a heck of an interviewer there, Melissa. But because I've started, we were speaking a little bit ago where I was about how actually being a creative artist is one thing. Actually finding and perfecting a medium that can be sold and appreciated, that's another thing. Well, that second thing, I came to that late in my career. You know, I've been pushing everything right from karma in a can to, like I was saying, doing, corporate logos and, jingles and on down the line. So I finally, it's really only been since 2011, that's a scant 14 years that I've actually said, okay, this is it. I'm going for hanging it in a gallery quality. And, I began my career as a painter, I think, and, sort of a modern, I say a realistic painter in that maybe I'd have a realistic chance of selling something.
You're doing great.
Yes.
You're on a roll.
And you are a great salesperson and a great representative. It's a fantastic gallery.
Well, I see myself as a wellness consultant because I believe that art elevates our sense of well-being. And I think it's really important to consider what we surround ourselves with. So for me, I feel that I'm providing a service in the area of wellness. And your work does this. It brings the beauty of the outdoors in.
Well, thank you.
And I think since the pandemic, that's become much more obvious that that connection is really important. Because I noticed a shift when people were on Zoom more, that you became very aware of what was behind people, and everybody became very conscientious about what they wanted to project, or what seemed pleasing, or, it was much more considered, I think.
I think that's a good point. I have noticed that, and I've heard people talking about that. Talking about what's behind people,
Yeah, or just like we were inside more. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, how do I want to feel? And how can I manipulate my surroundings and enhance things that make me feel better?
I'd like to address your last question just in one more way. You mentioned health concerns and output and creativity. And I gotta say, I've been thinking about it while we've been sitting here. I just feel physically so much better than I did a couple years ago, that I think, or even 6 months ago, that I think somehow, I don't know exactly how it translates logically, but I'm not rushing my paintings. And I don't feel desperate. I want to become a great artist, and I know I'm starting late, but I don't feel desperate like my life is going to be cut short. I don't feel that anymore. Not at all.
Yeah. Well, you're in the zone, and what I admire so much about you as an artist, or any artist, is the ability to not take shit personally. You are flexible, you try stuff, you're curious. I mean, this is the secret of life, is to remain curious and unbothered by making mistakes. You're willing to just try something new, whether it's a still life or abstract or landscapes. You're willing, and that's magical. That's freedom.
Thank you. I actually did a series of big nudes a few years ago.
That's a show, Big Nudes.
Big nudes. And I've sold half of them.
Okay.
All of them look like my mom.
Of course they do. Have you ever been in a drawing class? And like back in the day when I lived in New York, I was a professional dancer for a while, but on the side I would model for art classes because that's what we did, 20 years old. And inevitably, on the break, you'd go around and look at everybody's work, and they all ended up looking like them. Not the model, but them. We can't get away from ourselves. So in that way, everything is sort of a self-portrait, would you say?
Wow. I mean, that's some heavy artistic philosophy, and I like it, I think as long as you're talking philosophy, I think it's important for an artist to have a philosophy. I mean, you really have to know, even doing an abstract, you have to have a philosophy, or it's just...
How do you define a philosophy? Like, sort of like what the values, like how do you define that?
Let me see, like the one I'm working on in the driveway right now. You know, it's like I want to bring the soft beauty. It's another picture of the Shenandoah Valley. I want to bring the soft beauty, and this one is the mists, you know, in the mountains, and I want to bring the soft beauty of the Shenandoah. You know, that's sort of as we were talking about. That's my philosophy right now. I want to bring the soft beauty of the Shenandoah Valley onto the canvas. You know, now technique is a branch of philosophy. Part of my philosophy is I want to. I'm really enamored with abstract technique. I drip, I throw, I splatter, I drag. I try not to let a
Drip, throw, splatter, drag. Another show title.
I really try not to. This is part of the philosophy. I really don't want to see a brush stroke.
That's your autobiography title. Drip, throw, splatter, drag.
I like it.
Right? The story of Keith Patterson.
I like it. Hey, write that down.
So speaking of philosophies, my philosophy is bite off more than you can chew, which is kind of what I'm doing right here. We're putting together a little series of interviews so that we can save for prosperity our experiences here. We're putting together exhibitions with amazing people. And so Keith Patterson's work is here, included in this exhibition, Untamed, here at Melissa Ichiuji Studio Gallery in Front Royal, Virginia, which is in the heart of the Shenandoah Valley, right? And so this exhibition is technically up until June 22nd, 2025. Who knows? It will probably be extended due to popular demand.
The opening was a stone groove. Do not miss the next one, I'm telling you.
Well, you will be there, I'm sure. And anything you want to leave us with?
You know, hey, it's never too late to get started on your dream. You know, especially your creative dream. You're the only one that can do your creative dream. So do it.
Do it. Okay, so this has been our very first episode of Creative Outlaws, and we have our resident creative outlaw here, Keith Patterson. So come and see his work. It is continually rotating. He just brought in three new pieces. He brought in 4, I think, last week, most of which are cast to the wind now to loving homes. So come and see his work. You won't be disappointed. It is the essence of what makes this area so special, fresh and beautiful. So thank you so much, Keith.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Drip, throw, drag, splatter.
Drip, throw, drag, splatter. I love it.
Right?
Yeah.
You can't make this up.